Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Hogan. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go. So, all right. Here's the big update, ladies and gentlemen, I have for all of you. All right. All things considered, everything going on. All right. As of today, the documentary is canceled. All right. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there's a few major factors involved in this decision. All right. And it was not an easy decision to make because I've been working on this for months with Mike. And we've been going back and forth about stuff.
Yes, you did hear that right, but I'm sure all of you are aware by now this isn't exactly breaking news. But when it was breaking news, I was actively live streaming, so if you go check out my last live stream, the last about hour of the stream is covering this, and I do get loud and animated if that's something that you're interested in seeing. But yes, the documentary is canceled because DSP's a huge coward and backed out. I'm not going to say that I'm surprised because that really is on brand for DSP backing out at the last minute, but I did genuinely think that there was a higher chance that this doc got made than most things that DSP says that he's going to do. Only because this got further into process than most things that he bails on ever do. He was actively talking to Mike Klum, he brought it up to his fans, said that he was going to do it, he reassured them, even went out of his way to mention some of the things that they planned on being in the documentary, like interviews with his parents. He was already thinking about how he was going to have to reschedule his streams and keep his audience up to date. But like I said, in typical DSP fashion, he backed out at the last minute because you can't hold DSP to his word. And for all my visual style viewers, please mind the redundancy. You can see the uproar in the chat. Now, I can't vouch for how many of these people are LARPers or secret trolls, but there is absolutely an uproar in the chat.
And it was a tough one, all right? But allow me to explain what's actually going on, all right? So, number one, to do a documentary like this is going to be incredibly time-consuming. I'm talking weeks of work, likely away from being here and streaming with you guys, or really broken schedules and messed up stuff, right? So, for example, entire days of filming that I'm not streaming at all, a day where my schedule's way off and I'm doing kind of a half stream and then I'm running around. We're talking days I probably wouldn't even see my wife because I'd be so busy, right? And again, not just filming here, but also filming, I'm having to travel and go around to do this filming and stuff like that. So just that, number one, that's a big endeavor. And by the way, that's not the reason why I'm coming to this decision, but it's a factor in it, okay?
So the first reason, or rather excuse, that he gives for canceling the documentary is due to the amount of time and effort it would take and how it would have an effect on his streaming schedule. But this is something that he explicitly reassured his audience about when making the announcement and talking about how he was going to do it to begin with. He told them that there was going to be days where he wasn't going to be able to stream, or he was going to have to do these weird half streams, but he would keep them up to date and let them know when that was going to be. And we touch on this subject quite often, that DSP, being an online content creator in the form of a streamer, creates his own schedule and is the only person responsible for when he does and doesn't stream. If there are matters that require him to not be on stream, he can absolutely just miss a stream. It's not like he can be fired. The only thing that he's going to miss out on are the tips, which for any normal person wouldn't be all that big of a deal because you are working on a documentary about yourself after all. You think that it would be worth it to work on that project rather than your daily shitty streams that you do, and will continue to do for all of eternity, unfortunately. But DSP is not a normal style person. He's kind of anything but that, actually. And one of the things that makes him not normal style is the fact that he's deathly allergic to putting in any sort of effort at all. So these hypothetical days where he would have to be running around to shoot and then also trying to come back home and do the stream at a reasonable time, yeah, that's far too much work for DSP and kind of was never going to happen. And ALT pointed this out when we were on That Being Said, so shout out to both ALT and TBS. What kind of shooting for the documentary would require him to be gone for so long that he wouldn't see Kat for an entire day? And even if that was the case, that's not the end of the world. She isn't just going to disappear because you weren't around for a day. Normal people work full full-time jobs, and sometimes full-time jobs require some extra hours, and sometimes those extra hours can be a lot of extra hours. And that means that sometimes seeing your family and spending time with your wife, it gets put on the back burner. And that's just the way that it has to be when you're supporting your family. But for DSP, he's not willing to make that sacrifice for any project, for any piece of content. Because by now we all know that for DSP, it's maximum profits for minimum effort.
But basically, there's so many other factors going on. Some of these you guys know and some of you don't. Like, for example, I've got personal stuff going on behind the scenes in my life that none of you have any idea about. All right? You just don't. Because I don't share a lot of my personal stuff with you guys. As you know, over the last year, there's been a few days where I've told you guys things are going on. I'm not in the right mindset, or I'm not feeling well because of stuff. And that stuff's ongoing. So already, I'm kind of already at a limit of kind of stress in my life right now with that stuff going on. And that really sucks. All right.
Of course, it wouldn't be a DSP level 1 pre-stream if he wasn't super vague about something. And unfortunately for anybody who even slightly cared about the documentary, one of the excuses that he's going to give for canceling the documentary is some secret personal thing that's going on behind the scenes that he's not willing to disclose right now, but trust me, it's super important and valid as to why he canceled the doc. If you're gonna be that vague about something, I don't even know why you bothered mentioning it in the first place. It's just a waste of time. Nobody is actually gaining any information out of that, and you're just more likely to actually annoy people who, like I said, might actually care about the documentary, whether they be detractors or genuine fans. Because this is supposed to be Mr. Honest, the realest person on the internet who tells it like it is and doesn't pull his punches.
And let me also put it this way, okay? In order for this documentary to work, it would need to be even-sided, right? So you need to have an equal level of good and bad, balanced. What's happened is, since the word of the documentary hit the internet, there's 98% of the interest is the toxic negative. Everyone who hates me wants to be a part of this thing or have input in it so they can slam me and make me look terrible, just like they do on a daily basis for personal gain on YouTube, right? So that's where the interest lies. My viewers and my fans and those who actually like me have reached out to me over the last several weeks. And some of you, I want to appreciate every one of you who reached out to me and gave me your true feelings about this, all right? I had people who I haven't heard from in years reach out to me and say, don't do this documentary. That basically, this is not going to work. That it's just going to end up being a field day for people to bring up old shit that I've grown out of, but act like it just happened, right?
So the real second reason, because I'm not willing to count that vague personal behind the scenes style excuse, is that too much of the documentary was going to be skewed one way, on the detractor side specifically. But just like with the scheduling problems, he knew that this was going to be the case. He already reassured his dents on stream several times that he was aware that this was going to happen and that the thing was actually going to be fair regardless, because he actually had a say in it and he was working directly with Mike Klum. And I remember him specifically doing this because one of the times that he addressed this, I made a video on it where he was talking directly to 1 Minute Man who had concerns about how negative it was going to be. Here's a shameless self-plug if you haven't seen the video and are genuinely curious. What confuses me the most about this is that DSP was marketing this documentary as he was working directly on it so he could answer all of the questions and give you the real scoop on everything. He could debunk all of the detractors. Simply because he has a genuine say in what does and doesn't go into the documentary. So I guess I just don't understand why it matters how many detractors are involved in telling Mike Klum all of the terrible things that you have done and continue to do. Because you were supposed to debunk all of them. You were supposed to paint yourself in the light that you wanted to be painted in. It shouldn't matter if 1,000 people are talking to Mike Klum. You should have an answer as to why you've done all of the things that you've done and how you're not a terrible person for it. And if you can't do that, if that's not something that you can explain, if that's not something that you have answers for, then maybe you were lying the entire time. And there is some validity to what the detractors say. As one myself, I can tell you that there is, and there's many clips on the channel and all of the videos to prove that. But of course, I'm just a damn dirty tractor who, of course, should be sent to Ban World. In fact, I did just get sent to Ban World the other day, but that'll be in a different video.
And there's other people also who basically are like, you know, I'd like to be a part of this. Like, I'd like to support you as a fan, but how could we viably do that? And I mean, you're talking about, like, for example, let's say we wanted to have a fan of mine be a part of this documentary. Well, you don't want to give up their identity because trolls actually harass my fans if they can. They've doxed them. They've messed with their personal lives. So what are we going to do? Like, create an identity protection situation where we have to black their face out and voice change them and film them in a dark room and just to have a fan of mine talk positively about me? Right? Like, how crazy is that when you really think about it? And, you know, I want to say thank you because, again, there were a few people who I was working with to basically be kind of those people. And I appreciate that a couple people did step up and said they actually would do it. But do I really want to put people through that?
And I would love to know who these dents are that were going to step up to the plate and actually be in this Mike Klum documentary had it came to fruition. Because it really is rare when the dents are willing to step up and talk positively about Phil. He's one of the very few streamers I know who doesn't have any clip channels that clip him in a positive way. When Derek, one of DSP's biggest and longest supporters, was contacted on Twitter by Mike Klum, he immediately blocked him and reported back to DSP as much. And this was after DSP had already stated that he was working directly with Mike Klum on this documentary. So I don't really understand why Derek would have ran and hid into the shadows. I mean, I understand why he is Derek, and if you know, you know, but it's not like this was just another detractor documentary. But I'm genuinely curious who else he was trying to get into contact with for this documentary. Because who are you gonna get? 1 Minute Man? Good luck with that. Are you gonna go contact Super Blind Man, the guy who wrote DSP off quite a while ago? You're gonna get a hold of Swaggins? Pretty much anybody in the super secret Discord that totally doesn't exist, that's who we're gonna go talk to? Because aside from sending him money, I don't ever see those people genuinely sticking up for DSP and saying that he's in the right or that he's doing anything that's worth the shit.
Because again, what you guys got to understand here is this is not just about me anymore. If I were younger, if this were me back in Connecticut, in my condo in Connecticut, and the documentary was being made about me, it's just about me. Who cares, right? But now I'm older, I'm more mature, and I realize that this affects everyone, not just me. So my concern here is listening to all of your feedback. Here's the feedback that generally I've gotten from you guys in the last 2 weeks since basically this was announced, right? Since the Side Scrollers interview, so much drama happened. You know, first there was the fallout from that interview and literally 3 or 4 months where those guys ragged on me, did constant streams about me, Stuttering Craig wanted to come on my content. You know, bullshit. All nonsense just to make money. And then finally they shut the fuck up. But then Keemstar interjected himself because he now wanted to get popularity with this Lolcow podcast bullshit. And then he persisted for months and months with that. And then finally now, we're at a time and a level where the air is clearing and things are calm. And there's nothing really going on in the drama sphere at all. And people are actually just enjoying coming by and being a part of my content and not having to hear about this nonsense and that nonsense and this nonsense and that nonsense. Now, here's the thing. There's always going to be some nonsense. Right now with these trolls and the stupid false gifted memberships and all that, there will always be a level of that. But the thing is, there's some things you can ignore and there's some things you can't really ignore or can't control. The whole nonsense with the fake memberships is easily controllable. You ignore it, you ban the person, you move on.
So his next reason, or rather excuse, is that right now he's totally drama-free and nobody is talking about him. And there's absolutely no nonsense, except for the nonsense that he just brought up with the fake memberships. But other than that, it's totally positive, dude. Everybody's just coming by and loving the content, so why would he want that to change? Of course, DSP probably just came to the conclusion that many of us detractors came to as soon as he announced it. That there's pretty much no way that this documentary was gonna cast him in a positive light, and it was only going to be a net negative for him and his image online. Because of course, once you start talking about the guy as a general overview and compile all of the things that he's done throughout his storied career, you can very quickly see all of the terrible things that he's done just piling up, which will in turn make people on the internet start talking about DSP how they typically do, in a negative fashion. And because DSP has one of the most fragile egos I've ever seen, that's of course something that he cannot let happen. So he's going to feign that this is for his audience audience and he doesn't want to bring them any unnecessary drama, and he wants to focus on providing meaningful curated style content for them daily rather than a high quality documentary that would probably just wind up highlighting all of the horrible things that he's done. Because that seems to be what happens every time one of these online documentaries gets released about DSP. There's an influx of new viewers who have never seen DSP and think that he's a scumbag, so they go out of their way to keep up with him and troll and be in his chat and just be a general nuisance. But I hate when he hides behind his audience and pretends like he actually cares about their viewing experience and whether or not they have a good time on the streams. It's just so transparent as someone who watches DSP content pretty regularly. Because if he genuinely cared about their viewing experience, he would go out of his way to make sure that his content is on the up and up, and you can very quickly tell that that is not the case. It just seems disrespectful to me to hide behind your audience as a shield and not even be able to provide them a reasonably high quality stream.
But if you've got every person on the internet talking again about me in a negative drama way, it's going to affect everyone again, right? And right now we're in a situation where I'm really stressed out already. I'm also incredibly busy. You know, not only am I running DSP Gaming, but now I got this new project with DSP Throwback that was already in the works and going, right? And now that's hitting full swing with its first stream and everything, and I got to be focusing somewhat on that. I'm still maintaining the React show every week, once a week, and I'm trying to find new content for that. In fact, we need to start talking about the Super Bowl event tomorrow to start planning it. And then on top of all of that, my wife has finally made the decision to come back into my content. And Kat now has been here on 2 streams, which have been awesome. And now we're trying to plan out the content where she can do co-op gameplay and commentary with me. And that's a lot of work too, to figure that all out, right?
By now, I'm sure that you can tell that he's really just running down the list of everything that's going on in his content and in his life as an excuse as to why he cannot do the documentary. He's just throwing everything out there, hoping that some of it sounds reasonable and he doesn't get his feet held to the fire about canceling a documentary. But let's really sit here and talk about all of the effort that's going into these other channels and pieces of content that he's putting out. I apologize if any of this sounds similar to a different video that I did recently when talking about his different channels, but it's relevant here as well. Let's talk about that DSP Reacts channel. It's a channel that he only really has to put content on once a week. He does the live streams on Sunday where he reacts to all of the content that people have sent him, and that's it. And I use the word react very loosely because very often he just sits there with no commentary and no jokes. He loves to act as if though this channel takes a whole lot of time and effort to put together, when the only thing that really takes any amount of time is putting all of the videos that he has sent into a playlist and then shuffling it so that he can watch it. Other than that, it's as simple as just hitting the go live button and then hitting the end button at the end. Now, I know that he separates the stream into several chunks so that he can upload them day by day throughout the week, but that's almost not even worth mentioning because that's as simple as just putting the file onto YouTube, giving it a title, using the same thumbnail that he was using, and then hitting submit. It's not as if uploading a video is some arduous process that you have to go through. It is very simple. It's actually creating the content that is the difficult part of uploading a YouTube video. And I think that the way that he uploads these videos throughout the week is kind of silly anyway, but we'll talk about that in a second. First, I want to move on to his DSP Throwbacks channel, which is just an egregious cash-in, if you ask me, and a way for him to double, if not even triple dip on the content that he's already made. The whole point of this channel is to take the playthroughs that he's already made money on in the past that were lost to the ages to some dent so that he can put it through some AI upscale filter and an echo reduction filter. DSP then has a different dent make a thumbnail for him, and probably the original first dent that we were talking about come up with the title so that he can give it a new title as well. Then he just uploads whatever they send him. So really all DSP has to do is upload a video, receive a bunch of files, put them together, and then just send it back to YouTube on a different channel called DSP Throwbacks. Doesn't necessarily sound to me like that takes a lot of effort or time on DSP's behalf, being that he's not actually working on any of the content. So between those 2 additional channels that he has that he's trying to use as an excuse as to why he's too busy to do a documentary, I really don't know how he can justify saying that. And if you ask me, him having those 3 separate channels and splitting his audience up 3 different times for those pieces of content has never made any sense to begin with. I would imagine that it would be far more beneficial on his behalf to just leave those videos as larger portions and then just release them once or twice a week on the main channel. So instead of DSP Throwbacks episodes being 30 minutes long and being released every single day, why does he not just do a 2-hour episode once a week or something? DSP Reacts should be left whole. Just chop off the beginning that is the level 1 pre-stream. And if he's really worried about people not being able to find the piece of content that they wanted to see in those longer episodes, OP Boone does AI generated timestamps on every single video anyway, doesn't he? Kind of seems like DSP already has a solution to this problem. It seems to me that more and more people are enjoying long form content on YouTube, and I think that this would be a totally acceptable thing for DSP to do. Doing it this way also wouldn't clutter up the main channel while also not asking people to go subscribe to other channels, which most people just probably aren't going to do to begin with. But now I want to talk about the last section of what he just said. He brings up Kat and including her in his content. Honestly, I have no idea why he actually bothered mentioning her, because it kind of just sounds like he's using her as an excuse and therefore throwing her under the bus as to why he cannot do the documentary. And while it may seem that he was indirectly using her as an excuse, he was just including her and all of the other content and projects that he's obviously super busy with. There was really no need to bring her up at all, being that he had already talked about the 2 other channels that he was working on. But because he did decide to bring Kat up as an excuse, some of his legitimate fans who did want to see the documentary can now point their finger at Kat and including her into the content as a reason to why they didn't get the other content that they actually could have wanted. So not only is DSP actively hiding behind his audience, but he's also actively hiding behind his wife as to why he is a coward and doesn't want his ego to get hurt via this documentary.
So it's kind of like, we got all this stuff going on already. And now it's like, oh yeah, by the way, now we got a plan to have all this time away from work so I could film and I could do this and I got to travel to do this and that. And then on top of all of that, just so you guys know, there is one other factor that just happened this week. And I'm not going to tell you guys about it right now. Maybe eventually I would bring it up, but I'm not going to right now. But there was another huge determining factor that just happened. And that was basically the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say. And I was like, I just can't do this.
And that whole section there was honestly just a waste of DSP's breath and a waste of everybody's time. It was actually nothing. It doesn't explain anything. It doesn't give a valid reason. It just was air being wasted. I couldn't imagine trying to explain to my boss why I didn't show up to work and telling him, oh, well, I had something personal going on behind the scenes that maybe one day I'll tell you, but I can't let you in on it right now. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's why I couldn't come in.
All right. So, just to make this official, all right, it is canceled. It's not, oh, it's delayed or whatever. The documentary is canceled. All right. Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do something like this again or consider doing it again in the future. I'm saying right now, this is not the time, the climate, or the level of stress to really be taking on a project like this. Okay. It's not. Definitely things could change, maybe, right, in the future, perhaps. If things get better, if the stress level lowers, if my time frees up a little bit more, right? But basically, I'm in a situation. Here's the truth of the matter here, is that this is a big gamble. Think of it this way. Let's say that I did this documentary, right? And it went really well. All of a sudden, there's a fair, balanced way to look at me, and all of a sudden a bunch of new people are exposed to my content and they come over to the channel and our community grows and it's better for the business and for everything. That could happen, right? It could. But the thing is, it could. It's not a guarantee. It could very well go the other way. It could go the other way that I do this documentary and again, some of these old things about my past that are not me anymore, but you're talking about things from my Street Fighter days, things from my early days of YouTube, shit that doesn't apply to me in 2024, but things that people are only just hearing about for the very first time. And now they become an emphasis for certain people. And now people, oh, that's that guy who did that 20 years ago, right? Or this or that. And that could be really bad for us all, right? It could put us in a worse light as a community. Not just me, but it could put us in a worse light as a community together. And that is a risk that right now I'm not willing to take. That my sins of the past are somehow going to rub off on us in 2024 and make us all be treated like dirt, right?
So I know I let him go on for quite a while there, and often when I hear DSP ramble, I just get absolutely lost in what he's talking about. So I'm here to basically summarize and translate from pig speak into actual English. And all of that basically just breaks down into DSP does not want to be held responsible for the actions that he has taken in the past. That's it. It really is as simple as that. Like I said earlier, I really do think that he has realized that the documentary is just not going to be as positive as he thinks that it was going to be originally. And regardless of how much pignosis he tries to put into the documentary, that it's probably just not going to work. And because it wouldn't work, it would obviously draw a lot of negative ire onto him and his streams. He really took all of that time and wasted all of that breath to say that he didn't want to be held accountable. Not that I'm surprised by any means, but he could have said it a little quicker. But you gotta love that he tried to hide behind his audience right there at the end again.
And there is also one other thing. All right? I feel like this documentary, because I told you guys this when I started talking about it a couple weeks ago. I said this documentary would be the one. And what I meant about that is that this would be the one thing I do. That if I did this documentary, this would be it. I'm not going to do a second documentary in 5 more years. I'm not going to do a ton more interviews and all this shit. This is it. This is the one big project, right? That's going to encompass all of me, my history, who I am yesterday, today, how I've evolved, and all of that, right? All together. And I'm not sure that we're at the point that we're ready for that yet. Like I've said, I'm 41 years old, but I'm not going anywhere. Unlike all these other YouTubers who all of a sudden have decided together that they want to not do YouTube anymore. Oh, I can't take it anymore. The stress and all these years of doing it, I gotta quit. Well, no, you're quitting because you're rich. You're quitting because literally you're filthy rich. You hit the algorithm right, you got lucky, then you rode the wave with your thumbnails and your clickbait titles, and you put out your content for 10 years or whatever. You got filthy rich doing it the way everyone does it, and now you're quitting because you don't need to work anymore.
There's nothing wrong with that, DSP. They made the content that people wanted to see. They entertained their audience for years and years. And because they made entertaining content for their audience that absolutely adored and loved them, they made the money, so much money in fact, that they are able to retire, something that you could only dream of doing. You can cope and seethe all you want, but the truth of the matter is you are just jealous because you will never be able to retire making the content that you love to make. It doesn't really matter why these content creators decided that they wanted to retire, whether it be that they are under a lot of stress and no longer want to do it, that they have enough money that they don't see a reason, that they want to spend more time with their family, that they want to go, on adventures around the world and don't want to sit behind their computer anymore and make these videos. It doesn't matter because again, they made their content, they entertained their audience, and they were rewarded for doing that. And now they get the ultimate reward of retiring and being able to do whatever they want whenever they want with their money. It doesn't matter how much you try and downplay their success, saying they used clickbait thumbnails and titles and they made the same content that everybody else is making. It doesn't matter because the reality of the situation again is that you are just seething and coping because you will never be able to retire because you have squandered all of your opportunities and spent all of your money on sweaty JPEGs and DoorDash.
That's what's going on. I mean, it's a very simple explanation for why so many YouTubers are quitting. And it's not, oh, the YouTube exodus, people don't like working on YouTube. It's because these people are rich and don't have to work anymore, right? They already made it big. Now, you can judge for yourself whether or not these people have a level of passion for their work or not. Personally, for me, I've told you guys, if I hit the lotto today and I became a multimillionaire and I didn't have to work a day in my life, I would still stream. Now, I wouldn't stream the capacity that I do now. I'm not going to stream 6 days a week full time. But I love this so much because I have passion for it. I love what I do, and I love having interactions with you guys. I would keep doing it in some capacity, right? And there you go with YouTubers who, oh, well, now we're in a situation we don't have to work anymore. I quit. Well, I'm not like them. Because first of all, I'm never going to make it big. I'm never going to become a multi-millionaire doing this, okay? I'm not going to. I'm too small time, and I'm too stuck in my own mindset of how to do stuff. I refuse to do all those things that all of them did to get rich. I don't do any of those things. I'm not going to do those fucking things ever. Okay? That's why I'm different. But that's also why I'm kind of going to be at this level likely for the rest of my life, right?
And really, how sad is that? He is completely fine being stuck on level 1 simply because he refuses to do the things that he knows would take him to that next level. The things that might make him more prominent, the things that might make him more successful online and be more appealing to a wider audience. He refuses to better himself simply because he doesn't want to. And I understand, don't change who you are simply because you want to make more money, but some of the things that he could improve that would actually benefit his business and his streams are things that he could do that would have no actual change on his personality or opinions. Things as simple as pressing the mute button when you have to cough, sneeze, clear your throat, or snort. Things like having images and examples prepared in OBS when you're going to talk about a topic. Like I said, these are things that don't require a character change. They don't require you to change your opinions on anything or be anybody that you're not. It just requires you to put in that extra little bit of effort. But again, he's completely fine being exactly where he's at because his bills are paid and he gets to pull Hogan's all day. You can't ask for much more than that.
So if I'm going to do a documentary, I want to do it when I feel like it's time to tell my whole story. But I don't think my whole story's happened yet. I think my story is still happening right now and will continue to happen and evolve positively. Right now, like I said, not only am I maintaining a gaming channel, but I got a react channel and now I've got a throwback channel. And this is going to be a fun year of kind of doing stuff on those and juggling them around and having a good time with all of you. This is a great year for games. Like right now, we've got a bunch of great games coming out that I'm very happy to be playing and everything. So I'm not ready to say, this is my story and here it is and I'm done with it now. Like I feel like maybe down the road, right? That's something to consider. But I don't think that now is the time at all. I feel like the right decision here is because there's nothing toxic and negative really going on right now. Because we're all having a good time. We're about to start new releases. We're about to start this new year a very positive way. All this good stuff going on. And because of the feedback I've gotten direct feedback from family members, viewers, longtime fans, you know, writing me out of the blue. And everyone just tossing their opinion into the ring. And the consensus I'm getting right now is that it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I could have told you from the jump, DSP, that it didn't make any sense that you were doing this documentary. But you were the one that decided to give it the okay. You were the one that decided to bring it up on stream and announce it to the world. Well, I guess you didn't really announce it, Mike Klum did, but it's really all of the same because you got on your stream to announce it as well. I did notice very specifically he mentioned that his family members were telling him not to do the documentary because it didn't make any sense. So this is either another example of him hiding behind Cat or his parents told him that he shouldn't be doing the documentary. It couldn't have been Jasper because obviously Jasper is a detractor. Not to give away his secret identity as an agent undercover as Agent D. Claude, but just in case you weren't aware.
That's what I'm getting. The consensus right now is, no, definitely don't think about this right now. You know, don't do it right now. Again, you know, maybe in the future or whatever, but basically don't do it now because this is going to be a second side scrollers. Now here's the thing, I don't believe that. I don't believe that this documentary is going to be a second side scrollers because this is not a hit piece on me, right? But at the same time, I'm totally understanding where people are coming from, where they're saying it's gonna primarily be a lot of drama for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like tons of drama. And no one wants that level of drama. People just want me to be happy and to put out good content that they enjoy.
When the Side Scrollers interview happened, I really failed to see how any of that drama that came with that had anything to do with DSP's viewers if he had just not talked about it as much as he did. If he was actually capable of ignoring the trolls and detractors, as he says that he does, then it really wouldn't have made any difference to his viewers whatsoever if he had just continued to make the content that he normally makes and not talked about it. But we all know that DSP is incapable of that. Anytime someone is talking poorly about him or making videos about him or trying to start any internet beef at all, he's of course going to get sucked in and has to talk about it every day.
And that's what my true fans who are supportive of me, who come by every day and support my content, No matter what it is I'm doing, what it is I'm playing, what project I'm working on, what channel I'm on, those people aren't seeking more drama, right? And this, no matter what, this documentary was going to cause drama. And so I think this is the right decision for now. And again, maybe in the future I would change my mind, but for right now it is canceled. It's not postponed, it's not on the back burner, it's canceled. I'm not doing it, all right? But maybe that would change in a while, depending on the climate, depending on how things look, right? Who knows how things change over time? Who would have thought that today I'd be doing this? Like, what, 5-6 years ago, I never would have thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing today. And then 5 years before that, I probably wouldn't have thought I would have been in that situation. My life changes a lot. So that's my feeling on it. All right.
He says that maybe down the road he'll reach out to somebody else and do a documentary, you know, when the time is right and he really feels like it's the time. But just like when it comes to sponsorships and DSP, I really don't imagine that anybody is going to want to work with DSP. At least not anybody that's the same caliber or a similar caliber to Mike Klum. Because regardless of how you feel about Boogie or his documentary and how he was portrayed in it, I think that you would be dishonest if you didn't say that the documentary was at least shot well and well put together. And because DSP continues to screw over every single person that he has ever worked with during his 15 years as an online content creator, I just don't see too many content creators or documentarians wanting to work with DSP knowing what had happened between him and Mike Klum and how DSP basically backed out at the last minute. I just gotta ask why you would want to try and marry a girl who has a 15-year history of getting cold feet on the day of the wedding. Is that the gamble that you want to take?
And by the way, yeah, the schedule's not updated. I didn't update it. I'll have to update it. I keep forgetting to do that. I'll do it in a minute when I'm done saying what I have to say about this, because people keep typing the schedule and it's wrong. So yeah, that's the deal. So I want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who gave me feedback. I appreciate your honest feedback. Thank you very much to those who actually stepped up and were going to help with this project, because like I said, I was talking with a few people about being a part of the project on the positive side of things, and they were very willing to help, even at great personal risk of being harassed as you know, because they were going to participate in this. I also want to thank Mike Klum. I want you guys to understand something. Mike has been absolutely, positively nothing but professional at all. In this whole situation, he's been 100% professional. This decision has nothing to do with him whatsoever. Zero. This is my personal decision based on my life situation and my things going on. Nothing to do with him. He's been completely accommodating. 100%. He's listened to every concern I ever had. And this was going to be something that was going to be safe, right? This is not going to be a team storms into my house with cameras, starts filming, and just slaps it all over the internet. And now next thing you know, everyone's harassing me and my family because all my shit's on the internet. That's not what this is going to be. I want everyone to understand that.
I personally have had a couple of interactions with Mike Klum, and he was nothing but a gentleman when I talked to him, and he genuinely seemed like he wanted to do the DSP documentary when I talked to him. And I hope that one day that he will go on That Being Said and just discuss and talk about his experience with working with Phil and getting things planned and some of the interactions that he had behind the scenes, either with Phil or with the detractor community at large. So Mike Klum, if you ever see this, I really hope that you reach out to ALT over at That Being Said and you appear on the show.
And hopefully he'll be able to make quality stuff. From what I understand, he is working on other stuff that's going to be good. I wish him the best in the future, but it's just not for me right now. I know for me and my family as well, because again, it's not just me. It's not for me. It's not for my family, and it's not for my community right now. All right? It's just not the right time. Fair enough?
So yes, that is the no longer breaking news. The documentary is canceled, basically because DSP is a coward and doesn't want to be held accountable. He tried to hide behind every shield and excuse that he could, but everybody can see the reality. He is just a coward. Of course, big ups to Snort Hogan for the clip in this one. As always, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. Big ups to everybody who watched the video, especially if you made it this far. And a special shout out to all of my members. You guys are rock. I absolutely adore you. Thank you so much. Hopefully I'll catch all of you guys in the next video, but until then, make sure that you check out other detractor channels and dive deeper into that. Snortex.